Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Judean rabbis, Ari Abramowitz, Jeremy Gimpel, and of course, Luke, as always. This is going to be an opportunity. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm not a Judean rabbi, just to clarify.
Yeah, that's right. This is going to be an awesome opportunity. I'm literally looking forward to today's broadcast due to the fact that there's so much darkness in the world. I think it's all of our intention to bring a little bit of light. And we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening. This board of peace is awfully dark in our eyes. Maybe I'm just making that up. I'm pretty sure that there's that represents, we're seeing a lot of Muslim nations jump on this. What does this mean? Is this peace when there is no peace? Is this Jeremiah's words being fulfilled in actuality before our eyes? We're going to talk about it. And I think there's going to be some different sort of opinions on these topics. We're going to talk about there's a really huge move across Christianity with some really massive kind of rocking moments through the Orthodox Christian world of saying, replacement theology hardcore coming across right now. We're going to kind of dissect this a little bit and talk about what is happening across the globe. We're seeing Jew hatred increase, radicalized Christianity, if you could say, actually kind of sprouting up in different areas. So much to talk about here. First off, let's kick it off. Luke, you've got a little bit of research here on the Board of Peace, and we're seeing some really concerning nations jumping on with this that in essence are going to soon be kind of ruling over Israel in some ways.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, and I know the audience has been hearing like a lot of rumors and speculation about the so-called Board of Peace for Gaza, right? Well, it's been like a developing story, and I think this week is the first time we see very concrete facts about what is happening. Obviously, it's still developing because according to research, Trump has extended invitations to, I want to say like 50 or 60 countries to be part of this Board of Peace. So it's much bigger than people originally thought. People originally thought this is just some kind of governance for Gaza, right? For like rebuilding Gaza and et cetera. Now people are asking Trump, is this meant to replace the United Nations? And he's like, it could. I can't do a Trump impersonation, but it could. Like, I don't think it will, but it could, because it's going to be the greatest, best board ever. And so people are realizing like this could be a lot bigger than we originally thought. You know, there's rumors about how Trump's gonna if members of the board give like $1 billion and they can become a permanent member, maybe they can be one of the ruling members. Justin was saying before we started, there's actually two boards. One is actually the governing board, and one is more like an advisory type board. And maybe if you invest $1 billion, which Putin just came out and said Russia's willing to invest $1 billion into this Board of Peace, then you could be one of the decision makers. But so I want to just run through real quick confirmed acceptances, and you could tell me what do you?
Here's what I think immediately. I'm like, I think there's been over 1 million people killed in the Russian war that's lasted now for years.
Ukraine, yeah.
And now they're being invited to be on the Board of Peace. They just got to pay $1 billion. What is it, a country club? If you pay your membership, you get to join?
It's also just so cynical. It's so cynical. There isn't one member on this Board of Peace that is deluding themselves. Everybody knows it's a charade that everybody's playing.
Well, what's
Nobody thinks this
is
is about peace.
Some of the European countries have rejected Trump's invitation. But listen to this list of confirmed acceptances and tell me what is the theme running through here. Argentina, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Belarus, Egypt, Hungary, Indonesia, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Morocco, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, UAE, Uzbekistan, Vietnam.
Muslim.
Like,
that's a bunch of Muslims.
Are we talking like Western world, United States and Canada and, England, or like what is weird about this? Like something is really strange here.
Yeah.
So my thoughts are it's a little complex. On the one hand, it's like it's not a board of peace. It's a board of pieces, right, that are being cynically arranged in order to, cloaked in this language of healing and peace, but it's really just deception and evil and sickness. On the other hand, it's a board of pieces that on the deeper level, we know that God is arranging these pieces very carefully. Nothing arbitrary is happening here. God is arranging the pieces that it will eventually, ultimately bring about true peace. I do believe so. This is arranging the pieces to bring about redemption and true peace, even though none of their intention is actually about that. I mean, Russia putting $1 billion in to rebuild Qatar, Turkey. What are we even talking about here? But we know where this is ultimately going. You started the show by saying, we want to bring some light. The only light that there is to bring now, the only optimism about the world. It's true that Russia is talking about nuking Germany and England. Like, we're talking about an entire world that is a tinderbox waiting to explode and erupt in a dystopian nuclear holocaust. Where is the light here? The only true light is God, is the Torah, is the Word of God, is the Bible. And that's what we're here to bring, that deeper dimension that is the only real true dimension.
Well, here's what I think is happening. Because we're tasked with that mission of bringing the light of the Torah from Zion to the world and unite the world under that banner and in that light. If we don't do that, then all of a sudden the enemies are going to unite around us for the exact opposite. It's like measure for measure. If we don't do what we need to do, it will be done against us.
I like what you said earlier, Jeremy, about before we move on past this point, I don't want to miss it because Putin, to be one of the senior, say, members, because he's got a lot of money to give on this board of peace. I don't want to miss this because this clip that him actually saying, we may be able to give $1 million to this thing. I just think that this
a billion,
$1 billion. Sorry, yeah, $1 billion to this thing. It's so like maybe just enlightening to what this actually is. I just want to see this clip really quickly of him in his own words through a translator saying this.
I think that we could contribute $1 billion to the board of peace from the frozen assets assets frozen by the previous administration, and the remaining funds from the funds frozen in the United States could be used to rebuild territories that suffered during hostilities once we sign a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine.
It just seems so I don't know, confusing. Like you said, Jeremy, they've got how many people, how many casualties? I mean, this is a massive war, the biggest war that I know about going on in the world right now. Needs to be on this board of peace. The ones actually perpetrating the most war and death on the planet are now going to be like leaders on this board of peace. It just doesn't seem quite.
The prophecy that popped into my mind was actually from the book of Jeremiah. But you said, "Are we seeing the words of Jeremiah coming to be?" Mm-hmm. What verse were you talking about in Jeremiah? I'm wondering if we're both thinking of the same prophecy here.
Well, that they would yell peace, peace, and there is no peace. Is that's what I was thinking.
That's exactly it. And so let me just read the actual words here. They have healed the wound of my people lightly, saying peace, peace, where there is no peace. So you have to understand in Hebrew, the word is vayirpa'u et shever ami al nakala. Now, a shever, you have to understand, it's not a scrape. It's a deep wound. It's like a foundational fracture, right? And that's what Israel has suffered on October 23rd. And even since, the devastation, the families broken, the limbs ripped off, the psychological PTSD, the trauma is deep. And the world is coming and saying, peace, peace. It's almost like cosmetic and dismissive and like just a cynical joke, and they're saying peace. It's like treating an open vital wound and just putting a Band-Aid on it. But what we know, what is like, it's almost like someone breaks into your house, hacks off your legs, and then they take you to the hospital and the doctor is that guy with the machete in his hand. That's what it is. Like Qatar is going to come in. They funded Hamas, and they're going to come in and bring peace, right? And so what we know, what is true peace? Only God is able to bring true peace, right? It says in Psalms, it's throughout all of the Bible, all of Psalms, it always says, great peace have those who love your Torah. Nothing causes them to stumble, right? Even Gideon called his, the altar, he called it, God is peace. God is wholeness, it's peace. The work of the righteousness will be peace. The effect of righteousness, tranquility, and security forever. That's peace. Not evil coming together in this cynical, twisted darkness.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just thinking about, you have the actual, people know about, the Arab Qatar connection, but there's ones that are behind the veil of like, Turkey and Egypt, and these ones, Saudi Arabia, the ones that are kind of like, they're in the Muslim, they're a part of the agenda, I guess you could say, but less frontline. Like people could hide, they're hiding behind kind of this mask. And we talked about that last week. And I think that becoming a part of this board of peace, for those of us that understand that there's just a big mask covering this, is highly concerning to me.
I want to break down what the Board of Peace looks like, because it's starting to come out now. And this is where it gets a little scary, because again, it's not just about rebuilding Gaza, right? Which is initially that's what they're saying is roles and functions would include supervising Gaza's reconstruction and redevelopment, supporting lawful governance and civil administration capacity building, mobilizing capital and international resources for reconstruction, oversight for long-term stability, peace building, working along related structures like the Palestinian Technocratic Administration and International Stabilization Force, whatever that is, which the only thing we know it is a pipe dream.
There's literally not one word in that whole slew of words you said that is actually true.
We'll get back to the podcast in a second, but first, if you are a longtime listener, viewer of the Israel Guys, and you want to go next level, then there's a way that you can support our work and you can get behind the scenes with the Israel Guys. You can join the Israel Guys monthly donor program. You can visit the link in the description below. Sign up for any amount as long as it's monthly. If you join our team as a monthly supporter, then you get exclusive access to the Israel Guys monthly donor program, where you get to join the exclusive Telegram group, our exclusive monthly email newsletter. You get behind the scenes videos, photos, updates from the land of Israel, including our volunteer work and everything that we're doing boots on the ground here, a monthly private live stream with Joshua Waller and our team here behind the scenes. You can ask questions from our team. You get exclusive discounts from our online store. It's a really cool program. We've had more and more people signing up all the time. It's really growing, and I'm super excited about this, but it's two-faceted. You get to support our work because everything we put out is free, but we can't do it without people just like you. So you get to support the work of the Israel Guys, and you get some really cool perks along the way. So click the link in the description below. Sign up for any amount as long as it's monthly support for the Israel Guys. It's all tax deductible. We're a nonprofit in the United States, and we'd love to have you join the team. Now, back to the podcast.
There's no such thing as Palestinian.
Correct.
There's no such nation. There's no such people. Stabilization. The whole thing is
There's
one.
no stabilization.
Yeah,
There's
literally,
no peace.
Literally, it's a.
So
yeah.
that's one side. Then the other side is where it gets even more scary, because reports are now indicating broad ambitions beyond Gaza. And this is why reporters are asking Trump, are you trying to replace the UN, right? Because Trump has suggested the board could evolve into a global conflict mediation body.
Luke, can I just say one
rivaling or
second?
supplementing the role of the UN Security
Is it
Council.
coincidental that Trump just happened to pull out of all the UN related, functions right before he kind of
Like 3 weeks
really
ago, yeah.
throws this board of peace to like the next level? I mean, I think people are onto something.
So go ahead.
What's going to happen once Trump leaves office? I
That's
mean,
what I'm wondering, too.
he's got a few years left, and then what is it up for? It's up to chance, and we're like aligning all of these enemies of Israel together inside our borders with who's the head of this new organization?
I honestly don't think we're going to get there. That question is not even relevant to me. I'd be interested to know, are the people that are listening to this program, how many people agree with me that we're in such a critical place in world history, that we're so on the verge of global nuclear breakout, or at least nuclear war, that to think what's going to happen, it's already so far ahead. So many variables are going to play out that even speculating about that is not even relevant.
You mean you don't
this
think
is it? We're in it now.
You don't think we have 3 more years left to civilization, you're saying?
I wouldn't say civilization. I would say the current global paradigm is not going to be the same at the end of his term. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what that's going to look like. I think it's going to be much better. I think it's going to be much better. There's going to be tremendous light.
Trump is going to be the ultimate, I hate to say dictator. He's going to ultimate authority on this board of peace. So in 3 years, who knows? I mean, he is like 80 years old, but
I think he's like, this is my final.
He could just decide to stick around, I'm saying.
I see things all the time.
I mean, Mahmoud Abbas is like 90 and he's still in power, so anything's possible.
Yeah, the third term. I just saw him standing there with a map of North America. Canada has American flags all over it. Greenland has American things that you would think are either satire or artificial intelligence are actually true. right?
Well-
We're hearing things that are so absurd that we would never hear coming out of normative mainstream Overton window discussion. And it's just
I think the Babylon Bee has like a wall of satire articles they wrote that later came true.
Yes,
And it's
right.
basically that.
yes.
It's like you would never expect it. But this is kind of my analysis. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I mean, you referenced it, Jeremy, but basically this board of peace was a pipe dream, right? For months and months and months and months. But now it's like it's actively forming. You've got like 20 countries who have said, yes, we will be on the board. Countries saying, yes, we'll give $1 billion. Although apparently Trump's administration is not. They're kind of like, nobody knows if that's actually true. But countries
Where are they
stepping
giving the
forward.
money to? Who are they giving it to?
That's nobody knows.
Okay.
Trump, apparently. Trump's the ultimate authority on this board. But like you're saying, we now have 20 plus countries, majority Muslim, a bunch of them apparently prepared to give billions of dollars to this entity, whatever it is, who will then at some point in the future, not too far distant, be figuratively sitting in the Holy Land and governing in Israel, inside Israel, because it starts with Gaza, but Trump's saying this could be a global conflict mediation entity. My question is, because most of these countries hate Israel and the Jewish people. So my question is, what happens when they decide to move past Gaza? Because part of this whole thing is like the Palestinian technocratic whatever. What happens when they decide to create a Palestinian state or decide we're going to carve up the Holy Land and give some of it to the Arabs, give some of it over here?
Which is
Bibi Netanyahu has now said he's joining the Board of Peace. So it's like, if Israel's part of it, like,
do we at least get a discount?
At what point? At what point will the Israeli government not even have the power to say no?
Well, we're giving it away. That's what's that. It's not being taken from us. We're literally just giving it away. And, you know, there's people like they're questioning, are Israel the chosen people? Is Israel the chosen land? And it's amazing to just see the reality that the entire world right now is aligning itself around this chosen people and this chosen land. World history is on. Yeah, there's 1 million people that are being killed in Russia and the Ukraine. All right, one of you sides, you can join this also. Right now, our whole focus is on this little land in the center of it all. It's just a reality that God's plan has chosen a place to unfold, and it is right here.
Yeah, you hear genocide, genocide, genocide. Meanwhile, and now I'm listening to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. I'm like, are they going to say anything about the Iranian? Tucker Carlson totally silent. Candace Owens saying the whole thing is a lie. It's a Mossad op. Nobody actually is willing to condemn anything other than Israel. And what's the idea? The truth is that Israel has gone above and beyond any other nation in preventing civilian casualties, and we're being accused of genocide. And I'm starting to see a pattern here, a deep, deep pattern, that if we don't take responsibility as a nation, the void that we leave is going to be fulfilled in the mirror opposite, the illusion of those very things. If we don't bring true peace to the world, then it's going to be filled with this darkness. If we don't bring true unity, the only thing that could bring true unity is the recognition that the one God of the world, the God of Israel, has created all of mankind, and that's our prayer. If we don't do that, then what are we going to see? Nick Fuentes and Kanye West and Andrew Tate going to nightclubs, singing and dancing together. A black guy, a neo-Nazi, a Muslim. We're bringing the whole world together. What is the only thing that brings together all of these disparate haters? Is their hate for Israel and the Jewish people. If we don't bring the world together proactively through light and love and truth and Bible, they're going to come together against us in this deep subconscious spiritual resentment that we're not rising to the occasion.
Well, I would want to add to that it's not just a matter about bringing God and light into the world. It's also about eviscerating the evil. Mm-hmm. We had two opportunities. We could have absolutely destroyed Hamas. We had them on their knees, and we were asked, no for the hostages, no for this deal, no, just stop. Now their police officers are being offered to be the officers of police that are going to be in Gaza.
That's breaking news from just right now.
Yeah, we had the Ayatollah on their knees. We could have taken them out, and then we didn't. And now what's unfolding in Iran? If we don't finish the job and actually do what we're called to do, which is to banish the darkness by bringing light, then we're going to be overwhelmed with darkness, and that's what's happening right now.
Josh,
well, I think so many people.
Details on that story. I think it's important to
highlight that. Yeah. Well, just the fact that I don't even know who's responsible, but I assume it's some connection to this Board of Peace as it's developing. At least America is saying that the former Hamas member, policeman, which is just stupid to me.
Not Hamas police, terrorists.
Yeah, they're terrorists, are now going to be vetted and go through a process of like, now after they go through this thing, we're going to check them out a little bit. We're going to send them through in a U.S. A process and an Israeli process just to make sure that they're going to be served well, make sure that they've kind of like forgotten their terrorism. They're going to be, they're going to be a part of the police force,
security force,
yeah,
in
but
the new
they just need a little education.
Rebuilt Gaza.
Right. We don't need to disarm the Hamas. Now we just kind of let them have their guns and we'll rebrand them after they go through the Board of Peace. They'll go through Pakistan, they'll go through Egypt, and they'll let them decide. And if they're like vetted properly, then they get to come and they get to run down Hamas with guns.
Yeah. And is this not exactly what we did with the Oslo Accords? We did exactly the same thing. America came in, they offered these broker deals, and they said, hey, listen, these guys are not so bad. They just need a little education. We're going to send American trainers in. We're going to train these guys how to be policemen, like good policemen. And they're going to do their job because we believe in these people. The Oslo Accords are clear, and we've brought this up before, that did not work. When they handed these terrorist guns and trained them how to be policemen, do you think that they became good civil servants to the agenda of America and Israel to bring peace on their streets? Absolutely not. That is not what happened. They got trained on how to better commit their atrocities across all of Israel and kill Jews. And to think that that will not happen in Gaza is absolutely mindless. It's idiotic in its deepest way, and it's actually suicidal to the nation of Israel.
The most generous take on Oslo and this whole thing is Western nations projecting their over-fixation on materialism on the rest of the world and saying, all the people want is material wealth and goodness. And then you see the jihadist world and they're like, no, you give us billions of dollars, we're going to just invest it in murdering every single last Jew because that is the jihad and that is our spiritual commitment, right? So it's what happens when you take Western arrogance and the projection of materialism and you put it on this entire jihadist world, then you get Oslo, and it creates more blood. And we don't need to have all the psychological understanding. We just look in the Bible. Do not create a covenant with them.
Right.
They will be thorns in your eyes. Don't do it.
But the Bible says even more than that. It doesn't say don't make a covenant only with the enemies of Israel. It says don't rely on superpowers. Don't rely on Egypt. Don't rely on Assyria. Don't rely on President Trump. Right now, Ambassador Huckabee just came out saying that the American plan is to not have any Jewish settlements in Gaza.
That's right.
When we were talking about Mar-a-Lago, it's going to be Gaza El Largo. It's going to be America. We're going to be able to grow there. Amazon's going to be really cheap in Israel. We're going to have an alliance. It's going to be Jewish settlements. We're going to rebuild it. And now a board of peace that's being run by Pakistan and Egypt are going to be running the situation in Gaza and developing the policies there. But Trump is in charge. And in a few years, even though you're saying it's not going to last that long, but I'd like to think a little bit down the road, who is going to be in charge then? Kamala Harris #2?
I'll tell you who I think is going to be in charge. I don't know if you saw this video, but there are Jews that are going into Gaza under the cover of night and planting trees. People would say, don't put this on. It'll make you guys look like extremists. And I'm not into that.
Can I play the video?
Yeah, but let's play the video.
Amen.
All right, for our listeners, those listening and those who don't speak Hebrew, just explain what's going on in this
So they said, here we are in Gaza, and thanks to the Israel guys, we're able to come. No, they start off with the blessing. They said, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has allowed us to live and sustained us until this very moment, which is something that you say during a moment of significance in your journey. So they start off by blessing God. And of course, what are they doing? What do our enemies do? Death, darkness. They're planting. Yeah. They're planting trees.
Those are our radicals. Those are the most radical. Yeah. The most radical people, what are they doing? They're planting trees.
They're planting trees, and they're saying, please God, this should be the beginning of Jewish settlement of Gaza. And that's we were talking about the world says, well, if we don't do our thing, the world says, they're saying Argentina. This is a big, massive conspiracy theory that Israel started the forest fires in Argentina in order to establish a Jewish state in Argentina. Now, we can laugh about that. No, but it's actually taking real momentum. People are really, really believing this.
As reported on Candace Owens?
Yeah, and Candace Owens, what did Candace say? She said, the regime in Iran isn't actually killing its own people. It's a Mossad op, and their real purpose is to establish...
Bibi wants the land.
Bibi wants the Jewish state, the state of Israel, to also to have Iran.
Which
isn't even connected on... even addressing that is so absurd and crazy. We've had so many opportunities. If we were actually an imperialist nation, which arguably we should be, not for the whole world, but just for our land, promised to us in the Bible, we could have gone in and taken hold of the portion of Syria that is actually the state of Israel. It should be, but we're not. So we're going to be accused of doing the very thing that we should be doing that we're not, again and again and again. It's all about taking responsibility, and we need to take responsibility as a nation, as a people.
We'll get back to the podcast in just a second, but I wanted to tell you guys about an upcoming brand new product on our store, and it's only available by pre-order through February 6th, expected to ship shortly after that in March. But this shirt says strength and shield. It's from Psalms 28:7 that says, "The Lord is my strength and shield. My heart trusted in him and I am helped." And then on the other side, we have "I stand with Israel." We have the Israeli flag, the Star of David, and obviously the Israel Guys logo on the sleeve, the patch sleeve. So this shirt is very exclusive. It's only being accepted via pre-order and only until February 6th. So you want to get in there as soon as possible. You might not ever see the shirt on our store again after that. But guys, order the new Strength and Shield shirt on the IsraelGuys.store. Click the link down in the description below. Get a hold of this shirt while it's available, only for pre-order. So it's very exclusive. It might not ever be available to the public after that. We'll have to see. Guys, get the new product on the store while it lasts. Get in the pre-order there, only until February 6th. Click the link in the description below. Back to the podcast.
Just the same people that were convinced that we were massacring babies in Gaza are now convinced that there's no one being killed with the regime in Iran. It's like unbelievable. Like lies look like truths and truths look like lies. If you don't see that we are prophecy unfolding and that all of us are somehow participating in it, and what is the one thing that will align us, that will keep our heads on straight? It is the Torah. It is the Bible. It's the only way to make any sense out of all of the lies that are around us. If it doesn't align with the Bible, it's not going to be true. And that's why, by the way, the Bible itself is under attack now. And who is it being under attack by?
Right.
By the Orthodox Church. They're saying, no, that's Old Testament. That's not relevant. That's been replaced. It's not really true. The people of Israel are not the people of Israel. The land of Israel is not really the land of Israel. That was all spiritualized. That was all fulfilled. And they're actually saying that the Bible itself isn't true. Reality isn't connected to the Bible. Somehow disconnecting the two is like severing a head from its body, taking its soul out of its body.
Well, we can disagree with, Mike Huckabee about what he said about Gaza. I don't mind forgiving him on that. Like, we can only expect our friends to be as strident as we ourselves are.
He's also just exclaiming what the American policy is right now.
He did say something very powerful. He was referring to Genesis chapter 17. "And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant." He said, you can call us, I'm just summarizing what he said in the message. One of the points he made was, you could call me a Christian Zionist, but it's not really, it's just Christianity, right? We actually believe in the word of God, and he makes a covenant with his people and he keeps his covenant. And if we're saying that he didn't keep his covenant with his own people, what makes us think he'll keep his covenant with us? Right? Either the God of the world, the God of Israel, is true to his word, or he's not, and he's a liar. And that's what this really comes down to, which is why it's so interesting to me to hear all of these Christians who I don't think are haters of Israel and the Jewish people. Michael Knowles, he made a big stir with his comments that are worth looking at as coming from someone that is not a hater of Israel and the Jewish people.
Well, I think this all actually comes from this new thing that was just posted by
Can we tee this up a little bit before? Because I think this is a big story, and because so many people in America and around the world are debating the idea of Christian Zionism or Zionism at all, I think it bears looking into a little bit. So I won't read the statement, but there's a statement that came out from the patriarchs and heads of the churches in Jerusalem, who I have no idea who that is, because most Christians around the world are not connected at all to the patriarchs and heads of the churches in Jerusalem. It's a statement from the patriarchs and head, blah, 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 of Jerusalem on unity and representation of the Christian communities in the Holy Land. And basically, when I read it, it's not even like you'd fall asleep. Like reading this, I don't even hardly understand it. But basically, they're addressing Christian Zionism, and they're saying Christian Zionism is misleading the public, sowing confusion, and harming the unity of the flock. the Christian flock in the Holy Land or whatever. And then I'll just read this one line. It says, "These undertakings have found favor among certain political actors in Israel and beyond who seek to push a political agenda which may harm the Christian presence in the Holy Land and the wider Middle East." And then they just launch into replacement theology, basically saying that the church has replaced Israel, and Christian Zionism is not represented from the Bible or Christianity at all. Blah, 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 which is so interesting that you have the churches of Jerusalem trying to represent the Christian communities in Israel, blasting out to the entire world that the church has replaced Israel.
Right.
So fascinating that that's happening inside of Israel.
Well, I just want to bring a little bit of something behind the scenes here that could actually be unfolding as well. Like, this piece of information has gone viral. Everybody around the world's talking about it. Oh, the heads of the church in Jerusalem have sent out this thing. It's like this. They're trying to mimic something. Well, here's what's fascinating
Which again, just on the viral piece, like, this shouldn't be viral because all of the Christians I know, every single Christian I know, have never even heard of the patriarchs and head of the churches in Jerusalem. It's not connected to the majority of Christianity at all.
Well, here's what's fascinating is that this actually looks like a little bit of bot work, if you could say so, by the Russian side. There's a little bit of internal things with Christianity in these heads where they're trying to actually bring some aligning, and this actually came from another source, looks like Russian source, that actually wants to keep that from happening. And there's more that behind the scenes of this, but it just, in short, it looks like we have some sense. This was posted on an account that had no view. It was not a big account, and somehow it went completely viral. Very unnatural. Crazy viral piece here. So there's something behind the scenes that's going on here, and it's trying to, and this, I think it's at the bottom of everything we're talking about. There's an attempt to bring Christianity back to a crusader-like mentality that says Jerusalem is not the Jews. Because if you can get rid of the Jewish connection, Mike Huckabee had a great presentation back, and that's what you were quoting. He was saying, no, the foundation, it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Can I read a couple of the quotes from Huckabee? Because it's really amazing. He says, personally, it's a direct response to the statement from the patriarchs and heads of the church or whatever. He says, personally, I'm part of a global and growing evangelical tradition that believes the authority of Scripture and the faithfulness of God in keeping his covenants. That includes his covenant with Abraham and the Jewish people. My Christian faith is built on the foundation of Judaism, and without it, Christianity would not exist. Those are all the Christians that we know.
Yeah.
And that is so much. I mean, obviously, there's division in Christianity. There's 44,000 denominations or something like that. And so, yes, there is a split, but there is a massive millions of Christians that believe that God made a covenant with Abraham and the Jewish people and the land of Israel, and that covenant cannot be broken. He goes on and says, if God can or would break his covenant with the Jews, then what hope would Christians have that he'd keep his covenant with us? That has always been exactly my question, because Christianity, like what Christianity has done in the name of God and the Christianity's embrace of paganism, like we can't even get into it. Like, God should have forsaken his covenant with Christianity if he could forsake his covenant with the Jewish people too. So I mean, obviously that's from like our understanding, but it's just it's
here's like, what I'm concerned about, Luke, is the Michael Knowles took this on. And he's trying to, he says he's pro-Israel. And I want to watch this clip because it's pretty actually concerning. Not that I'm concerned about Michael Knowles necessarily. I'm concerned about what people will think when they view this, because they're going to take it the next step further. And this is what I'm concerned about. This whole conversation could be awakening a serious pogrom-like version back 1,000 years. It could take Christianity back 1,000 years like that. Boom. By these kind of things. I don't think that's what Michael Knowles is intending, but this is the fact, and I'll get into it in just a minute, but watch his take on what the Church of Jerusalem has put out and how I believe this can really be taken off the rails quickly, and we need to be watching this.
This is why I would not call myself a Zionist or a Christian Zionist or any other kind of Zionist. It's not because I don't like the Jews, and it's not because I don't even support the state of Israel. As I think I've made clear, I am broadly supportive of the nation state of Israel, but I am broadly supportive of it not because I believe in the principles of Zionism, which makes certain historical claims and religious claims that I just don't think are true. I don't think that the Jews are entitled to the Holy Land because of some religious premise. I don't think that's true. In fact, being Christian, I believe that the Old Testament is fulfilled in the New Testament. Christ is the new covenant, the fulfillment, everything that was typified in the Old Testament is fulfilled in Christ and the church as the new and spiritual Israel. So I don't buy those religious premises, and I don't believe just because a people was on a plot of dirt 2,000 years ago that means they're entitled to it today. If that were the case, we'd have to turn the Black Hills we'd have to turn Mount Rushmore over to the Lakota Sioux. I don't believe any of that. And yet, I am broadly supportive of the nation state of Israel because I don't like the alternatives. I don't like the idea of giving Iran more power in the Holy Land. I don't think the Muslims have been particularly protective of the holy sites. Sometimes they've been better than others, but the Ottoman Empire doesn't exist anymore. The current options in the Holy Land are not great, and we're probably not reestablishing Baldwin's kingdom anytime soon.
Here's the most concerning part of the whole thing. We're probably not establishing Baldwin's kingdom anymore. Did you hear that? That's what's concerning. I know he probably wasn't meaning what that means, but you know who Baldwin is. I didn't know who Baldwin was. I'm not too connected to it. Most Christians don't know who he is, but he was the leader, the king of the Crusades, the first Crusades. Do you know what the first Crusades were? They were the ones that burned and pillaged Jews all the way to the Holy Land because they were the new Jew. What did the Jews? God had forsaken the Jews. This was the antithesis of everything. What God? It's evil in everything. But let me tell you what they did. They got to Jerusalem, and what they do? Jews ran for their lives into the synagogues. This is documented what happened, and they burned the synagogue down on killing everyone. This is what that represents. We're probably not going to be doing that. Do you think that's a nice thing to say?
Right. So I think that he said that out of ignorance. He was focusing really on I would say the Christian jihad. He's talking about spreading Christianity through the world. He was focusing on that dimension of the Crusades. I think clearly he's not focusing on the bloody, violent element of it, but we can't just forgive that, okay? Because you don't say something like that. I remember hearing Tucker Carlson a long time ago. He was talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how America was fundamentally immoral with doing that. Why? Because it's killing people, and killing people is against his religion. Forget the fact, put to the side, that there's a great argument to make that millions of lives were saved by those by the atomic weapons, but the irony of Tucker Carlson, almost every show talking about it's against my religion. The reason I'm against anti-Semitism, it's against my religion. We are against Christianity to kill people. The Crusades, Jews today in Israel, Sephardic and Ashkenazic Jews have this conversation. It was better to be under the oppressive Muslim rule in Yemen, Algeria, Morocco by far than in Europe and under Christian rule, by far, because of the vicious, horrific nature of just life under Christianity. Not you guys, obviously, but I'm talking about of the Crusades. To what and I just want to read. This is Inspire Worms Mainz, just to understand. Jews were dragged from their homes, beaten, mutilated, murdered publicly. Women were raped before execution. Infants were smashed against walls and thrown into rivers. Torah scrolls were ripped apart and burned in the streets. Survivors were offered a choice, baptism or death. What does that sound like? Does that sound a little bit like October 7th?
Yeah.
Does that sound a little bit like the jihad? When you turn against God, then there's a convergence of all evil and darkness in the world. And so we're going back to this, the Crusades, and just the irony and the hypocrisy of this moral virtueness, when really, what did the Crusades do? It took the darkest, most evil impulses of man and transformed it into a virtue. Exactly what the jihad does, right? It's an act of worship. The more vicious and horrific they are to the Jews, it's an act of worship, right? And so,
well, they convinced themselves that this was the best way to honor God. That it was absolutely delusional and opposite of God, but they convinced themselves, just like the jihad, they believe that this is the best way they can honor their understanding of who God is and how they can serve him best. That's exactly what the crusade did, and God forbid that this statement would come in any way. Possibly, I don't think we'll possibly see the days. You know, is that what he's saying in the show? That this could, what Christianity could be restored to its ancient glories.
I have a different take on what Michael Knoll said. And
I'd love to hear it.
Two faceted. One, I think he's trying to popularize the idea that you can support Israel without supporting Israel from a biblical perspective, because he does not want to be seen as another Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens. He's saying Christian Zionism is not okay. It's an antithesis to Christianity, whatever. But you could support Israel because they're a much better option than Iran ruling Israel or Hamas or whatever. My question is, like, is that even okay? And I just realized that part of what Mike Huckabee said encapsulates this really well. He says, quote, in his response to the patriarchs, he says, "It's hard for me to understand why everyone who takes on the moniker Christian would not also be a Zionist. It's not a commitment to a particular government or government policy, but to the biblical revelation as given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." I mean, I'm in full alignment with Mike Huckabee here. I believe you cannot be a biblically based Christian without being a Zionist.
Right.
And if you are, there's something that feels feeble and flimsy and fragile about that, right? I'm married. Why does that marriage mean something to me to the degree where under, all sorts of different impulses that could be pulling me in different directions, I will remain with pure fidelity to my wife because the marriage is under God. Right? It is a biblical, covenant, right? It's a biblical covenant. Unless you have a biblical God connection, then the minute the heat is turned up, the minute the consequences for standing with Israel become too great, then you could just explain it away and rationalize it to yourself the same way Pharaoh rationalized everything to himself. Oh, this is just nature, and this is just, unless you believe that there's an actual biblical God covenant, and that needs to be based on truth, which is why I don't think Knowles meant bad when he said this thing about but he needs, it is his responsibility to dig deeper and to dive in and really understand what he's saying and do his research, which I don't think he's doing, about the gravity of what the words that just came out of his mouth.
Well, maybe this is an example of what you're saying. You're saying our support for Israel and the Jewish people needs to be based in something much stronger than Israel is a much better option than Iran. Because what happens when this board of peace gets instated with a Palestinian technocratic government or whatever, and then one day all of a sudden the world decides, like the Michael Knowles and his followers decide, you know what? I think this Palestinian technocratic government committee, whatever, is a better option than Israel ruling the Holy Land. All right, Israel out, and the reformed Hamas members that have been vetted by U.S. security and are the new police force take over Gaza, Judea and Samaria, the Golan Heights, Syria, whatever it is, because their support for Israel is so flimsy. Exactly what you're saying.
Or take a next step. What if Steve Bannon and Michael Knowles and these guys get a little bit more popular in their idea, and Christians actually begin to think that Jerusalem is actually theirs, and that they should liberate it from the hands of the Jews, because the Jews, in their belief, are not God's chosen people anymore, and they're desecrating the holiness of Jerusalem. That's what they thought 1,000 years ago, and that's what's actually coming back right now.
And it's the logical conclusion of this
to that faith.
Exactly.
That's right.
Well, I would say there's going to be measure for measure.
Yeah.
And if they're saying that the Jews have been replaced, what is the greatest threat to Europe today? What is the greatest threat to America today? It's another replacement theology. The jihad says they're the new chosen people.
That's what I'm saying. It's like 3.0.
So just if they've pushed away Israel, they will be pushed away and the enemy will come against them. But I really feel like it's incumbent upon us to share the truth, meaning if we open up to the Bible, it says like this in Leviticus chapter 26, the people of Israel will be in the land. And if we don't keep the covenant with God, He's going to scatter us around the world and we're going to suffer in exile. And it says, and yet when they'll be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, nor will I destroy them or break my covenant with them. For I am Hashem, their God. I will remember for them the covenant of the ancients. It's like, even when they're in the exile, an eternal covenant is an eternal covenant. And then the Bible says, not one time, over and over again in every prophecy, those same people one day are going to return to the land of Israel. So it's not like a verse here, or it is like, do you believe in the Bible or not? If you believe in the Bible, you must stand with the Jewish people in the land of Israel, period. And if you don't, there will be measure for measure judgment. And as we see, as Europe has turned away from God, the enemy is now taking over. The number one name being born in England now is Muhammad. That is the most popular name. There are now, we just had a family from Sweden come and visit us here. There are dozens of no-go zones in Sweden that are just being slowly but surely taken over. And as they turn away from God, it won't be a vacuum. They will be filled by the enemy. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think I think it's just crazy what we're talking about, like that we could actually be at this point. And I think we've talked about it before, because Zechariah 14 prophecy talks about one day all nations will go up again and fight against Jerusalem. And in our modern day times, we like to take the Bible very literally, and so you just imagine like millions of armies of the world going up against Jerusalem. But then it talks about there are people left after that, like there's a God's kingdom is established. So in our modern day world, we always wonder, like, how could that actually happen? What does that look like? And I know there's been various like ideas and interpretations of that. People think, oh, maybe it's the UN voting, the Security Council voting, and nobody vetoes it, right, against Jerusalem. The Board of Peace seems like another like idea of how this. I'm not saying it will play out like this, because the question is, how far is the Board of Peace actually going to get? But it's another example of like how Zechariah 14 could be played out, of all nations going up and fighting against Jerusalem. Because right now, the United States, the Trump administration, is going to be the head and the ultimate authority of this Board of Peace. And according to Trump, whatever they say for Gaza and beyond is going to go. And if Israel is a full member of, Bibi Netanyahu is a member of this committee, and then you have 18 other Muslim, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish members, what could happen? Like anything could happen.
One other thought back to Jeremy's point is that I think we have 3 more years before, a lot's going to change within these 3 years, but I want everybody to watch this. This is what's happening in America, and just imagine what it means once this. I think Islam is the fastest growing religion in America, from what I understand. What happens when this kind of rapid covering of Islam that's going on in America comes to this point where somebody can be in America and say these words without really having any, there's no repercussions to this. Watch this, and then tell me if you're not concerned about what's coming.
As a Muslim, my response to all of this is, do your worst. I am not afraid. Because even if this body is broken, the spirit inside of it, you cannot reach. And it will continue, and Allah will replace you. Whether I see that or not is irrelevant. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the U.S. government. I am not afraid of the United States Army. I am not afraid of ICE. I'm not afraid of whatever they control. Not only am I not afraid, but it is my life mission to stand against all of the above.
So what happens when this continues? It really paints a picture to me of where we're headed in the world, and the darkness that is covering the globe, and that we're living in moments when Israel and that light of Israel is only going to grow as the world fails.
You see, we have to recognize that this is a spiritual battle. And if you talk on a rational, logical level, if you believe that conquering land, you have a right to that land, or if you don't believe that you don't have a right to the land if you conquer the land. So the Jewish people conquered the land in 1948, so we have a right. If you don't believe that conquering land you have a right, then it was conquered from us by the Romans, and so we have a right to that land. So rationally, there's just no way around it. Good. But the point is that Greenland, it doesn't matter. Meaning, in a world without God, who knows what's going to be in 3 years after Trump? That video right there proves that this has nothing to do with logic. It has nothing to do with rationale. It is a spiritual battle. And so the only ammo that we have is the Bible to bring the truth to that darkness.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
Can I say, this is so, because of that to say the Christian point, we said earlier, I said 3.0, that's Islam, 2.0 is Christianity. Both of those are false and evil. You can't have a 0.0. You can't just, it doesn't work. What I want to clarify is that yes, Jewish people, if you establishing something new upon, no, it doesn't work. You can't do that. What the world needs to understand is that covenant with Israel is clean and true and right, will never change. You can't add to it, you can't take away from it. It's just what it is. And the world needs to understand that there's a biblical just foundation. You can't change it. You gentlemen are Jewish. That won't change. Your children are Jewish, and you have a role to play in the world that the nations just don't. Call it whichever you want. You can't establish a new thing to replace you. It don't work. And the sooner the world understands that, the closer we are to redemption.
No, the sooner we understand that. That's what this whole thing is about. It's
the
about
Jewish nation.
We are a nation of priests. We're Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. We're here to be vessels for blessing the world and shining God's light to the world. And until we do that, until there is a Jewish leader of Israel that says the same exact words that came out, imagine that we should almost replay that and say, imagine that these words were coming not through the dark prism of a twisted document like the Quran, but through the Bible of the God of Israel. And it's being channeled through his anointed one, through his anointed nation, right? And shining a light to all of humanity. While God's light is going through that, the Even Hashtiyah, the foundation stone through which all of reality was created, and it's going to the world. Right now, it's going through the Dome of the Rock.
Yeah.
Imagine the light and the beauty about when it's going through the temple of the house of the God of Israel. That is when it will really, really shine. And and so we need to really not try to change everybody else, convince everybody else of anything. Look within ourselves as a nation and kindle that spark. Because when that comes from our mouths, as God says in the book of Malachi, return to me, and I will return to you. We need to take that first step and put our faith in God and God alone, and not say, what are the nations going to say, and what are they going to think, and how's it going to be marketed, how's it going to be perceived? No, we fear God and God alone, and that is the words that are coming from the leadership of Israel. God will say, if you finally put your faith in me, you've returned to me, now I'm going to return to you. And that's what's going to happen.
Well, it's your job to work on the Jewish nation, right? And for the light, for you, it's y'all's job to shine the light brighter, for the light to go forth and the Torah to go from Zion. No, you guys are doing that on a weekly basis, but it's our job to work on the nation.
Can I tell you a quick story about that?
Here for too.
Yesterday, I was with the movie star Nate Buzz. And he's a radical Zionist. He said he was speaking to a group, and I was with him there, and he said, "God's a Zionist." He's an Aussie. God's a Zionist, and he went through this whole story. But I was talking to him later personally. We were meeting, and we were walking through the streets of ancient Hebron, and a Jewish group walked by us, and it was funny. This little internal thing. They all recognized me and not him, which was kind of fun. They were like, the Israel guys. It was a Jewish group, so obviously, they were like all about the Israel guys, but it was good. And so
he's a humble guy. He wasn't
really humble.
upset.
He was great. And I was like, well, actually, you need to meet this guy. And he's doing amazing work of representing Israel. It was fascinating that him and we talked to this Jewish group, and we told them, we see God doing amazing things with you. We feel like that you guys are right on the right track. Israel's only becoming brighter and stronger. And we told them together in unison, where we really feel like is a challenge, and it's on our shoulders, is that the nations are falling apart, and we're taking that very seriously, and we're trying to reach the nations with the truth of God and the truth of Israel, the covenant of Israel. And so just to inspire maybe everybody that's listening is there are people out there, and there's people that have serious positions of star status, that are even using that Hollywood moment, that Hollywood place, to try to educate people and educate people on how to stand with Israel in a right Christian way, that people could understand that the Jewish people, this is the foundation of the whole world, that people should recognize Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You can't get rid of them. You shouldn't. It's going to cause trouble in your life. You'll never break it. You'll never win. A lot of people have tried. It don't work.
I just want to tweak one thing that my brother Luke just said. Your job is not only to reach out to the nations and to be a light to the nations,
That is
but
true.
You're also doing a great job with us. Really, you have a role with the nation of Israel also, not only to comfort and to support and to encourage us to walk with God and to be who we're supposed to be, but the righteous of the nations, Az Yomru Vagoim, will say just like you said, will say to the nation of Israel, the God of Israel, he's with you. He's with you. Look at the great things he's doing with you. And when we hear it from your mouths, it has an effect on our hearts in a way that there's no rabbi that can say it like that than when we hear it from without. And so you really have a mission in both directions.
I totally see what you're saying too, and it was actually funny that this came up in the conversation because there was a Jewish guy standing there with us that was a part of our little meeting, and we were like, "But you know what? At the end of this all, we looked over at the Jewish guy that was with us, Yehuda, and we said, we really actually just trying to set you up to be able to be the light to all nations."
That's right.
And even that was powerful. That Nate, Buzz, and we recognized in the end, we really just have a role to support you. And in the end, you will be the voices of light to the whole world.
Yeah, and it's funny because never before have I heard of one religion, if we're going to say for a second that we're two different religions totally, one religion coming and saying, you, that other religion, you are God's people, you have God's mission, you need to, that's never happened. And the irony is that when that is coming out of your mouths, it's actually breaking down the walls that have been up for thousands of years. That I think is when the prophet Zechariah says, "V'nilvu goyim rabim el Hashem b'yamuhu v'ayuli la'am," and the righteous of the nations will attach themselves to the house of Israel and be for me like a nation. By you turning to Israel and saying, please walk with your God and follow your Torah and be the Jews you're meant to be, you're actually breaking down some of those walls and really connecting with us on a very deep, spiritual, fundamental level to the degree where something new is being created.
And shattering the 2.0 replacement theology that was invented,
I have a
1,000 years ago.
question because I've been thinking about that video that we just saw. What does it mean that someone is pro-Israel, but I'm not a Zionist? What does he actually mean? Does that ring a bell to you? What does that
means
word
I'm
mean?
politically okay with Israel, but biblically has nothing to do with me. Did you say that's right?
Yeah, but I would also say I have that your very same question.
Right,
Like,
because Zionism is a political movement, which is ironic. It wasn't a religious movement in the beginning. The beginning parts of modern Zionism was entirely political in order to establish a state in this land. And he's saying, no, I support the Jewish state in the land. I'm just not politically, it doesn't really make sense.
True.
And I'm trying to what is he actually talking about? And I would say that there is a difference. And the difference in my mind, maybe he's articulating, maybe it's conscious, maybe it's subconscious, is that someone who's just pro-Israel, it's like they like Israel. They're cheering for Israel on the side. Like they'll even buy good tickets and watch them from the the front lines and say root for their team. And if someone speaks bad about their team, they'll even speak up for their team because they really like their football team. But someone that's a Zionist, they don't see themselves on the sidelines. They see themselves running the ball down the field.
Yeah.
They see themselves as a player in the game. They see themselves as an active participant in the story of the Bible. It's not just a religion. It's not just a theology. It's not just some idea, or it's not even just politics. There is an unfolding story in the Bible, and seeing yourself as a part of that story is the essence of Zionism. And it's like we have these visions in the Bible. We have the visions of prophecy. Are we just supposed to wait for those visions to come to pass? Or is that a vision that we're meant to work toward? We're meant to bring that vision into reality. And that's the essence. And that's really the defining line now. Who is aligning themselves with the vision of God, who's actively participating in the visions of the Bible, in the dreams of the Bible, and they're all aligning now. Like a new team is being formed, a new people's being formed. And it's like we align ourselves with the vision of God, and we are actively pursuing to fulfill that dream.
One quick story again from yesterday that was so incredible, and I feel like you're talking about that vision being lived out. Yesterday, we were in ancient Hebron, probably one of the most, next to Jerusalem, fought over places in the entire land of Israel. In a spiritual sense of like it's a hold. There's a Muslim hold on this town. I was there. I told you I was there with Nate, Buzz. There was a couple of guys. We had a bunch of volunteers there. We were doing this project, and Jeremy, you've done a lot of teaching on Ezra, Nehemiah. There were Jewish men that our team came alongside that had their gun strapped on one side and literally a pick in the other. I literally saw it, and one of our volunteers said, I feel like we're doing like Ezra and Nehemiah work. Mm-hmm. And then I walked into this thing, and I was working alongside this Jewish man who had his M16 over his shoulder, literally had a pick in his hand, digging a rock out right beside me. And I looked up at one of the guys and I said, I think you're right about that Ezra and Nehemiah thing. It's happening. And I said, do you think the Bible's coming about? Like, do you think we're living the stories, the pages of the Bible now? So I want to give like some vision to everybody. We've talked a lot about so the hard stuff. The reality is, me as a non-Jew, one from the nations, is coming alongside of you. You've got your gun on one side right now because we're in the trenches. The kingdom of Israel, the people of Israel, call it what you want. Go back, the nation of Israel is being reestablished. The ancient ruins are being are becoming back to life. That's what we were part of yesterday. Our team of nations, Cowboys, Spanish people, and Amish people that was our team. It was about 40 people. Came in, partnered beside these Jewish guys to rebuild the ancient ruins of Israel, reestablish the agricultural cycles, to see the land restored. So to me, I'm inspired by what the Jewish nation is doing and how you're bringing us alongside of you to do one of the most holiest things that I can even. It's like the whole world's got this thing going on, and it's what we've talked about today. But there's a real beautiful thing happening, and that's the light I think that's really coming. It's small, and if there's a few people out there listening, this is a lot more important.
Yeah, I'll just say, because this just popped into my mind, and it's good it's at the end, so you can cut it out if it's not relevant. But it's funny. I'm thinking about what you're saying. I'm hearing the words from your mouth, and the words feel in my heart very much like David and Jonathan. Right? It's not just, we're not just here together to accomplish a mission together. Perhaps in the eyes of God, which his thoughts are not ours, the brotherhood and friendship that's being developed here, even just with us as an example, is a brotherhood that is so deep and profound that it's the purpose in and of itself. That there is that David-Jonathan idea. Because what are you essentially saying? What is Tucker Carlson saying? We are the chosen. We are God's chosen. The only way to be God's chosen is to say, I believe in these words and say these words and not believe this and believe that. And you're saying, no, we're actually forfeiting this kingdom, this kingship that isn't really true anymore. And we're turning to you and blessing you and asking you, please be that nation of royalty that you're meant to be. And when we become that nation of royalty, which is what we're meant to be in Am Segula, what is the purpose of that royalty? The purpose of being this chosen people is to teach the whole world that we're all chosen, that we're all royalty, that we're all God's children and he loves all of us. But we have to be the conduits and the vessels for that blessing and that light. And so I really do see a David-Jonathan relationship even between us.
Yeah.
Does that resonate as true with you?
Oh, I think absolutely that there's a awakening among Christians to say, whoa, this thing has gone off the rails. This stuff that we're hearing that we've talked about today, the Crusades and all this stuff, most Christians didn't even know they didn't know that the Crusaders pushed Jews into synagogues and burned it down. This is they're awakened, and their zeal for Zion is to say, well, this is a Jewish story. And I think that's exactly, they're waking up and saying, God's with you. That's even what Isaiah says. Isaiah says that what are the nations to say? They say, your God reigns. There's going to be a day when the nations all say, your God reigns. And the analogy is exactly
Isaiah
right.
52.
Is the nations are going to take their shields and come alongside you like we did yesterday. Say, this story is about the Jewish people. And God didn't choose you for no reason. He chose you because, like you said, the light's going to cover the globe through you.
Well, we can just see that there's so many lies that are being put out. There's just by the patriarchs in Jerusalem and by Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Israel, the messianic vision is for the Torah will go forth from Zion and the word of God from Jerusalem. At that time, it's not going out to the Jews. It's going out to the nations of the world. And if that is the dream, we need to start fulfilling that dream now. We need to start participating in that action now by spreading the truth, because otherwise the world will be covered with lies. And it's our responsibility to bring the Torah, to bring that light to the world.
That's right.
Tag, you're it. We're saying, go.
And I guess the question is too, I mean, we could keep going, but obviously we're running out of time again. But you guys are watching. You guys are listening. Our audience out there, let us know what you think. Like, does a statement like this from the patriarchs in Jerusalem concern you? Does rhetoric from those who say, I support Israel, but not because of Zionism. I'm not a Zionist. The Bible doesn't say anything about supporting Israel. Is that worrisome? Like, we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think.
Zachariah, I just had to say this, Luke. To say you're not a Zionist, back to the point, now we got to wrap up, but God says, I'm fervently zealous over Zion. With great zeal, I'm zealous for her. How can somebody be like, I'm not a Zionist? Did you not hear what God just said? You know, like, okay, whatever. Anyway, Luke.
Well, because the Old Testament, you know,
Yeah, right.
the Old
Oh, that was it.
Testament
That was
fulfilled.
That was
so.
the old prophets. I was like, oh my gracious.
Anyways, guys, if you believe the whole Bible, if you're a Zionist, if you're a Christian Zionist, if you stand with the land and the people of Israel unconditionally, you believe God made a covenant with Abraham, let us know down in the comment section and make sure you're subscribed. As always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda. Connect with the truth of what's happening in Israel. We'll be back soon here at the Israel Guys.